and welcome to No Such Thing as a Bad Movie podcast. I'm April Atmansky, and I'm here today with...
Colin Cunningham and special guest...
Chevy Chase apologist, Joe Ramoni.
Good.
God damn it, Joe.
So this week, Joe's filling in for Justin because, as you may know, if you follow him on socials, he just gave birth to his child.
Well, he didn't personally.
His wife did. But yeah, so we're giving him the week off.
He is a human baby child.
That's right.
I wish I had the excuse of having a baby to not watch Nothing But Trouble.
Yeah.
Stop now. So today's special guest is Joe Ramoni from Hats Off Entertainment on YouTube.
And he also has a podcast.
Fantastic YouTube channel. If you guys haven't watched it, it's really, really good. It goes like in depth on, does some like great deep dives on some John Candy movies, some John Hughes movies. That's
right. So check him out on YouTube and his podcast, which is called Almost Cult Classics, right, Joe?
That's right.
So that's it. The Chevy Chase, Dan Akroyd, Demi Moore, John Candy classic, Nothing But Trouble.
Is it a classic? So this is really funny. But I was at work today and I was leaving and, I'm saying, hey, I'm going home to record a podcast, blah, blah, blah. Nothing But Trouble. No one had ever heard of this movie.
And what's the age demographic?
Well,
mid-30s to or is it like 25 to 45?
I'm going to say like 22 to like maybe 37.
Okay, I can understand that. Younger people, I don't think they know this movie.
There's a guy that, he's really into like horror movies, Texas Chainsaw, blah, 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 which will probably come back up in this episode, but never heard of it. I'm like, Dan Akroyd, Chevy Chase. No. And like looking it up and like penis nose. Nope. No one's ever heard of it.
As Canadians, I feel like it should be a rite of passage.
I know, it's very weird.
Dan Aykroyd's only directorial movie, correct?
I guess.
Is that correct?
I think.
To date, you never know.
It's true. That's right.
Oh no.
But yeah, I mean, he's a Canadian darling, as we all know. But
sure.
yeah, as far as like the Dan Aykroyd early 90s movies, this completely missed me. I didn't even see the Blues Brothers until like I was an adult, but I recognized him from SNL. Trading Places, obviously one of my favorite movies. And this is just like the vision of a madman.
Well, that's Dan Aykroyd, really.
Dan Aykroyd unrestrained. He's just let loose. And we've all heard stories, right? Dan Akroyd turned in these gigantic first drafts for movies like The Blues Brothers and Ghostbusters, and it took other filmmakers and writers to kind of pick the good out of those gigantic scripts and kind of rein him in. But here, he is the sole screenwriter. His brother, Peter Akroyd, gets a story by credit.
Mm-hmm.
But it's largely him. Yeah, that's right.
There's a lot of Akroyds in this movie. I was watching the credits, and it's just like I think
apparently his family makes a little cameo.
Are like the porch people when they first come into Volcania.
Really?
Yeah.
the porch people. But like the thing that's kind of confusing about this is obviously they had a lot of faith in him. That's fine. But like, was he just calling in favors from his friends to be in this cast? Because this cast is humongous. And then where does Demi Moore fit into all of this? Was she dating one of these people at the time, or
how dare you assume that?
Well, I'm just saying, like, or was she just? I'm just saying she's not part of the SCTV SNL factory, comedy.
No, and she was coming off Ghost, I believe, at this point, which was a huge hit.
She hasn't really done. I'll be honest. I'm not fully like versed in every Demi Moore movie.
Yeah, is it Demi?
I think it's Demi Moore.
Demi.
Never heard of a Semi tractor trailer.
Semi.
There you go.
Well, there you go. Yeah. But Joe. Okay, so here's how we picked this movie. You had, I think, tweeted about it.
I showed up with a gun, and I said, hey, guys, we're going to sit down and watch.
Or else.
You had tweeted about it, and I think it was like something went off in my mind. I'm like, oh, my God, of course. Because we knew Justin was going to be away, like...
Well, we kind of we're anticipating needing some guests on the podcast.
Someone to sub in.
But I had said years ago that I never wanted to even watch this movie, so I did it for you, Joe.
This movie looks so off-putting And you would like tweeted about it or something, and I said, I don't know, I probably had a few drinks, and I think I messaged you, and I'm like, we should do that on the podcast.
I love making people watch this movie. It's one of my hobbies.
Is it a yearly occurrence for you, forcing someone new to watch it?
Pretty much, because like you said, just no one really knows about it. And I remember discovering this movie on DVD when I was a kid, and at that point I was a huge John Candy fan, a huge Dan Aykroyd fan, and to see this, like, what is this? I mean, because the poster is so interesting, and as a kid who liked, horror comedies, I thought it was great. I thought it really tapped into that style I liked, stuff like The Munsters and Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. I feel it feels a lot like...
Oh, big time. Yeah.
And I don't know, I always just thought that it's worth watching. I mean, there's so much to talk about. There's so much on screen, so many elements of its production that are just so incredible.
I agree.
Yes. I will say, like, the feeling that I get from watching the movie was incredulity, annoyance.
Will you take that again?
But there was less disgust than I was expecting, because I had already seen like the clips of him like eating the hot dog and the dumpster babies.
I think you had like posted a still Joe of like just like an image of Dan Aykroyd with like the penis nose and blah blah blah.
Yeah, well, I feel like if you know anything about this movie, you haven't seen it, you know there's a penis nose.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what most people know, including.
So I can't wait to hear your reaction as we go on to knowing that that's what you would have known about this movie. There's a penis nose in it. Then seeing how it unfolds. I mean, did you have any idea what to expect?
No.
I mean, what, as far as like the plot goes, or just like the story?
Everything, like the plot, the
I had
the
a little
sets,
bit.
I thought I had an idea.
Yeah.
But I have to say, like, I didn't hate it. I was really just repulsed by all the reviews I've seen of this movie. So it was kind of like, I'm never going to watch this.
All right, let's say not as bad as we were led to believe.
No, I don't think so.
But still not very good.
Penis nose just comes and goes in like little blips.
There's only 2 penis nose shots that I clocked. Is that correct?
Peni.
I believe so. It's the classic scene at the dinner table, then it comes back at the very end.
Yeah, and
That's
it's more of like a kind of Chevy Chase. I don't know. Imagination.
Fantasy.
Yeah, not fantasy, but like a nightmare.
I would also like to think that Dan Aykroyd was just sitting in makeup one day and looking at himself in the mirror and was like, you know what? It kind of looks like a cock. Let's just can we doctor it up, guys?
Honestly, I imagine them thinking it was so like, wouldn't it be so funny if it was actually turned into a penis?
Yeah,
and then they were dying laughing on set. That's the only thing I can imagine.
I'm just picturing like Akroyd like handing in like a 400-page like script with like the that's what he did for like Blues Brothers, I think, and it was like the backstory and all the brothers.
Right.
He's probably got
the original title for this was Valkenshire.
Valkenshire.
And Valkenshire is the name of the original town, and then that became Valkenvania. I mean, it was going to be Valkenvania very close up until its release. They changed it very close to its release date to Nothing But Trouble, something Dan Aykroyd didn't like. He thought it was way too...
Yeah, it's very
it didn't really represent the movie.
It's generic. And Valkenvania leans more into the horror thing. And I know that this movie has genre problems because it's a horror comedy, but there's not enough of either. But if it was called Valkenvania, maybe it was more like advertised as like a haunted house type movie, which it is, then that would be better. Nothing But Trouble tells you nothing.
Yeah, it's just very generic.
Did you guys catch it is Nothing But Trouble is a line of dialogue at a certain point? Did you catch it?
Yeah, we did
during the
DiCaprio,
almost sex scene, I guess, with Demi Moore and Chevy Chase.
Yeah.
So it predates Suicide Squad by
a few years.
We're in Nothing But Trouble.
What is this, some kind of Vulcanmania?
But yeah, I mean, we can go through the plot.
Well,
but generally speaking,
the plot.
The thing that bothers me about the movie is the premise, which is I feel bad for these people, even though they're kind of jerks. I mean, the Brazilianaires are charming and nice. And I really feel bad that they get dragged into this somehow. And yeah, Demi Moore is fine. Chevy Chase is just kind of like a jerk, and you don't like him. So, but at the same time, I feel bad for these.
So he's playing against type, basically.
Yeah, and
like Chevy, like my God, like does anybody like this guy?
No,
Listen,
now.
I defend him to an extent.
Okay.
But I know he is, like, I've never worked with the man, so therefore I'm allowed to have that opinion. But I'm sure, I mean, these stories wouldn't exist if they weren't true. It seems like he is problematic to an extent, but I don't know. It seems like you're working with one of your close friends, Dan Akroyd. Like, I'm sure the production wasn't that bad on this. I'm sure they had some level of fun. And I mean, it's certainly Akroyd is. Every time you see Akroyd on screen, he's having a blast. So.
Yeah, actually, and I was telling you that in the movie that we're going to do for the Patreon, I'm like, actually, Dan Akroyd is pretty invested in this.
He has energy.
He does.
I mean,
He's not
but
phoning it
also,
in,
I mean,
like-
maybe he was just delighted to get to direct as well. Like, this was
the thing
probably
is, like,
super fun and self-actualizing.
I think
for
this
him.
is like passed around to multiple directors. Like, it seems like one of those things where he tried to get, a lot of people involved, and they were like, no, this is shit. And like John Landis was like, no, this script is terrible.
no.
I'm out of here.
Yeah.
I'm going to direct The Twilight Zone.
And it all worked out great for him.
Oh.
But yeah, also,
I think he was doing The Stupids at this time.
oh really?
no.
Was that?
Oh,
Wait,
my
so
God.
That could have been around then.
what year is this movie? 93?
91.
91. Okay, it's
Oh,
pretty
dear.
early.
And The Stupids is 96. So
Yeah.
yeah, but I think he talks to John Hughes about directing. I think he talks to John Landis, and I think what ends up happening is to save money on the director's fee, he just ends up deciding to direct it himself, and that essentially makes them greenlight the movie at Warner Brothers. So him directing was primarily a cost-saving measure, but something he was enthused to do. But then I don't think he took into account just how hard it was going to be to get into this makeup for two characters
Oh my
and
God.
Yeah.
direct in the makeup. I think at one point he had to be taken to a hospital. He collapsed on set of
no.
exhaustion. So he was really throwing himself into this, and I don't think he realized just how daunting it was going to be to not only direct, but to direct as Bobo.
Yeah.
Like, that's insane.
Like full body makeup. And
Full body makeup.
It sounded like nobody wanted to take the role, so he just took it.
yeah, pretty
yeah,
much.
wait,
And
It's like, fine.
Are you
It's
talking
like-
about the judge or the baby?
the baby.
The baby, yeah.
Baby.
It's like no one wants to, be in makeup.
Can you blame him?
And this sounds like, if I was like an actor, this would be a nightmare job. And I was like, who's the other actor?
The other baby?
The other
It's
baby.
Jason
I'd never heard of.
DeVicus.
Yeah, I'd never heard of them.
You know who he is?
who?
No.
He designed the Ghostbusters logo.
No.
Okay.
Really?
Yeah, he's a friend, and I guess he was an artist friend of Dan Aykroyd's. He was the one that designed that Ghostbusters
no
logo.
Shit.
So he is Little Devil.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
was playing the multiple characters also a cost-saving measure? Because you got John Candy is playing. You know what I mean?
Well,
I
it
think that
sounded-
was supposed to just be a joke.
I think originally, like, Dan Aykroyd was supposed to play the Chevy Chase role, and then the studio was like, no. They're like, let's
Okay.
get somebody.
Yeah, I think they wanted Chevy in it.
Oh, it's so weird.
So yeah, then I think he was originally, like, Dan Aykroyd was going to play the judge and Chris.
Right.
Interesting.
And then John Candy was going to play those two roles. So I think they're like, he just wanted to have like this goofy, let's all play multiple roles type thing.
Yeah, like
like a John Landis movie.
or like the Clumps
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah.
Exactly. But it
it's
just
so
doesn't.
weird.
Yeah, as much freedom as they give him as a director, and it's worth noting that he surrounds himself with the best of the best as a production team.
For sure.
I mean, you have Dean Cundy as the cinematographer and William Sandell as production designer, which this movie has incredible production design.
It's really, really good, and that's
every room in that house is, your eyes are just
Yeah.
looking around the frame at
Yeah,
different
there's
things,
so
Meticulous
much to
detail.
look at,
which is
and
probably Dan Aykroyd's personal collection of things.
he's got like a basement full of squeaky dolls.
Oh,
I was waiting for a Crystal Head vodka to pop up somewhere.
Yeah, like a early Crystal Head vodka. That was his. I'm sure he had that idea for a long time.
Well, we were watching like it was like some other movie recently where Dean Cundy was the DOP.
it was Jack and Jill, right?
no,
No, Pixels.
No,
Well, Crystal Head vodka shows up in that.
But there was something where there were like a lot of night scenes, and we're like, wow, they don't light movies like this anymore.
Oh, I don't know. That could be any number of things.
Yeah, I was following along with you guys during the summer of Sandman there, and that shot in pixels where it basically breaks for a commercial where they drink Crystal Head vodka. And it's not the scene with Dan Aykroyd in it. Like, come on.
I don't know. That movie is not great. It's no Jack and Jill.
Well, our friend, so Connor Sweeney, who is in Frankie Frico. He's our friend from Astron 6. He was away promoting Frankie Frico in like England, and his wife and kid bumped into Dan Aykroyd at the airport. Mm-hmm. And his kid, I don't know, he's like 5 or something, loves Ghostbusters. And they said he was like the most delightful, nice person.
Took a picture with them.
He's like, oh, let's get a picture with the kid. Like he likes Ghostbusters and blah, blah, blah. And
so yeah, Dan Aykroyd, nice guy.
Nice man.
I mean, I believe it.
I met him there's a thing in Philadelphia called the Philadelphia Flowers Show, and about 10 years ago he was there hawking his vodka. Oh. So I went and got a little photo with him and bought some vodka.
That's great, and I have tried it.
It's pretty good vodka.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Apparently, it's like filtered.
Yeah, I've had it.
Triple
filtered through diamonds.
Through aliens.
But yeah, any other general things we want to say about this? I mean, like the production value is immense, but at the same time, off-putting. But I know that's the reason, and I've never seen this movie, but I was reminded of Alex Winter's Freaked.
I've never seen that.
And the Casper movie from the 90s. I don't know if you guys have seen that, but I grew up with that.
I haven't,
and
it's the house, you mean?
It's the same kind of like chairs.
Well, Dan Aykroyd's in that too.
Very, very briefly,
God,
yeah.
Right.
It's the same kind of like chairs going through ceilings and slides, and it's that kind of like fun house without the clutter, but it's that old like ugly house.
It feels like a kind of like just a little step away from like a Rob Zombie movie or something.
but it's also kind of like a kiddie movie too.
Yeah.
But that's kind of like Freaks is kind of like that, because it's like people are stuck in this place and they're being subjected to horrible experiments, and that's kind of what's going on here.
I think he wanted to make a legitimate horror movie. I really do. And I think basically, you know, he has a bunch of his friends that come in, and apparently he gave them all their own video playback monitors to allow them to direct themselves, essentially.
Really?
And yeah, John Hughes showed up on set and was like, "You have to get rid of these. Like, you can't direct a movie this way," because everyone was doing their own thing. No one was paying attention to other characters. So Chevy in particular seems like he is just in his own movie. He's trying to ad lib and interject as much as possible.
I can't.
And it doesn't always work.
Like, I will be a defender for Chevy Chase. Like, I love the Three Amigos. I love that dynamic. I love him when he's like really good, but my God, there's no chemistry between him and Demi Moore.
And his little one-liners, most of which are
they sound
ADR,
like ADR.
They are, but they're not funny.
Everything is so flat, and
they're also inappropriate for the scenes. But he's anyway.
Well, he does have great chemistry with his toupee in this movie.
And that's news to me. I thought it was his real hair.
Chevy's hairline gets better as the 80s go on.
Okay, that's good to know.
He just he kind of just brings nothing to this movie, and he's very just flat, and he's very unlikable, and usually like that kind of, I don't know, like weird kind of goofiness that he brings to other stuff like does not work here.
Yeah, I mean, I love him in the Vacation movies, obviously.
But
he's got a good scream.
There's nothing likable about him here, I think.
This was right at the end of his, powerhouse performances as like a comedy lead. I mean, he was really on the way out here. This was, I think, Memoirs of an Invisible Man, wasn't that?
I was around this time.
Yeah,
yes, it was.
I think he was horribly miscast in that movie as well.
Yeah, but he was a producer there. I mean, so he was even trying to like get more involved behind the scenes. But yeah, a lot of it just doesn't work. I think this era of SNL and SCTV guys, they were kind of on their way out, and you were having the new generation come up, like Adam Sandler and Chris Farley and those people.
Yeah, I think so. And even like John Candy, who I love, is not very charismatic in this movie.
He seems pretty checked out.
He seems very checked out, and he's kind of just when he's playing the cop character, he's just sort of annoyed. They keep cutting back to him, and it's kind of like he doesn't agree with Dan Aykroyd or whatever, but and then he kind of like leaves the movie.
Which is funny, but it's like I guess he's supposed to be the straight man to the sister, who is the comedy character, but the sister is
She's
not.
mute.
She's nothing, and she's just mean. And also,
And they
it's
get
a
that
bad
one
joke.
shot together, and it's a
Yeah.
very
Which is
weird
actually
shot.
really good. But
I thought
it's
there was
very
going to be
well done.
more of that.
Yeah, but there isn't anything.
They couldn't afford it.
He kind of just like leaves, and he feels very like he's phoning in his performance in this movie, I think.
Yeah, well, I think what happened there was he didn't want to do the movie for obvious reasons, and he did it as a favor to Dan Aykroyd.
Yeah.
But, famously, he turned down Rick Moranis' part in Ghostbusters, and that
shit.
movie becomes a huge, huge hit. And I think he
no.
always regretted that a little bit. So when Dan Aykroyd comes knocking a few years later and is like, hey, I've got a script, another goofy horror comedy, there's a big part for you, he's going to jump at the opportunity to do it.
It's going to be bigger than Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
And I'm sure a lot of people thought that behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you read much about it, but Warner Brothers was pretty distracted with Bonfire of the Vanities at the same time.
God.
So that's why he kind of ran rampant on this movie, because they were just
Oh.
distracted by that nightmare production. So he really did. I mean, it kind of doesn't come together, but the one thing you can say when watching this movie is it's very obvious that he had creative control over how this movie looked
Oh
and
my
how
God.
everything was.
Yeah,
so,
like 100%. Because
Yeah.
apparently,
Yeah.
what was it, 91? It was $40 million. It went like $5 million over budget. It ended up being like $45 million, which is a lot like back then when you consider it.
Yeah, and it all went into the sets.
It
probably
is-
it's a huge set.
Yeah, it's all I can like compare it to is like, I don't know, like Pee-wee's Playhouse or something like
Yeah.
that. But that whole
Freaked was a great comparison.
which one?
Freaked.
Oh yeah, Freaked. Yeah,
And
It
also
feels, very similar
like-
with the makeup.
yeah,
and,
some kind of Tim Burton movie.
the vibe is very like, what I mean. If
It's
you're not-
very 90s.
Yeah,
you know,
it is,
it was
is.
that kind of wackiness was pervasive, and this is early 90s too.
Yeah, and
It's
I
the
haven't-
MTV generation.
I'm trying to think of that Dean Cundy movie that we watched recently. Oh God, it was Psycho 2.
Oh, right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
lighting in that was great.
But we were kind of like, but we're talking about like movies nowadays when they shoot night scenes, and I don't know whether it's just like the capabilities of cameras or if it's like an aesthetic kind of thing that they do, but everything just looks like gray mush.
yeah,
you
I
can't, you
agree.
can't see
on
shit.
TV. It's like they've kind of lost the art of cinematography. It's just like, hey, we can shoot everything in natural light, and you can't really discern anything from the background or whatever. But when you look at old 80s movies, even the worst ones, they were always shot on film, and they, it's nighttime. You have that nice rim light from the sun or the moon, sorry. There's like some shape, and it sort of like brings the characters off the background. You don't really see that anymore.
Yeah, the lighting in this, especially in the night scenes, great. Now, a lot of them are in that junkyard where there's literally spotlights, but even before that, I can see what's going on.
You can tell anything that's going on, but when we watch Psycho 2, it's like Dean Cundy, and it's like, okay, this is like a night scene, but there's like a rim, and it's like shaping people off the background. Nowadays, it would just be flat and like just evenly lit by like some big area light on the ceiling or something.
Yeah, all the junkyard stuff looks great.
Yeah, it looks really good.
Very well lit.
The,
There's
the
some,
outside of the mansion.
there's
Yeah,
some matte
really well
paintings. Matte paintings early, and I don't know if it's late. There's
a few,
There's later. There's some too, just to kind of extend that whole area.
Yeah, but it's like when they first come into Vulcanvania, it's like they have those kind of pipes that are like, it's based off that one town. I don't know where it is, but it's like where there's been a coal.
Oh, Centralia, which is not far from me
Really?
geographically. It's in Pennsylvania. Yeah.
That's the one there's like been a coal fire underground for like 50 years or
So
something.
it's based on a
Absolutely.
real thing.
I think Silent Hill was also based
Oh
on
my
that. wasn't it?
Yeah.
god. Because that happens in the third act of the movie. I'm like, is the pits of hell below them? Is that what is happening? And they do mention, it was damn miners opened up a mine under our house or whatever. But
Right.
like, I was like, what is happening? And then they just descend into, well, hell, basically.
Yeah, they kind of have those like big like vents that are kind of venting this like yellow gas or something into the air.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that I don't like about these characters is why do they care about killing random people? You know what I mean? It's like, I really don't like the lady cop. She's just such like a, order follower. But
they all
basically, it's like these people have a license to murder. He has a license to murder for anyone for any reason.
Well,
and I know it's supposed to be funny. I'm just saying she gets to the point where she's endangering her own life to stop these random people from getting away. Why?
Because they failed to stop.
Yeah,
the
but
stop
that's
sign.
not an answer. I'm just saying it's not like it's Texas Chainsaw Massacre where they're getting. Are they eating? I don't know.
Okay,
Are they eating the people or?
Speaking of which,
they're
by the
torturing
way.
them and they get off on that. This is just like. I don't understand the motivation, and why is everyone so mean?
Joe, do you have,
Help
Yes.
me out here.
do you have anything to add?
You know, it's not the best story, and things are left for sure. You get things that don't make much sense, and at the end, obviously, there's kind of a freak out gag with who's involved. And I will say, it's a more entertaining explanation as to what happened to Jimmy Hoffa than the Irishman.
Oh,
presents,
yeah.
So at least there's
I
that.
did laugh at that. I thought
Yeah,
that
that
was
was-
quite funny.
It was a
actually.
funny thing. It was a funny gag.
You don't have to spend 3.5 hours watching the Irishman. Just watch Nothing But Trouble, and you'll get a very good.
Oh my God, Jimmy Hoffa came through here, and they saving like clippings of the people he's murdered.
Yeah,
so
it's
like,
pretty good.
I would just love to see Pacino's Jimmy Hoffa in this universe.
yeah,
Someone should like take that scene and then just like
Ugh.
composite like
that would be so much
Him,
fun.
Pacino's
him at the
thing.
dinner table with the judge with the train going around.
Yeah,
That scene where
that'd
he's
be
like,
great.
"You show up late to a meeting."
What are you
Just
wearing
put that
shorts?
in. Yeah, you're wearing shorts to a meeting. Just put that in the Nothing But Trouble dinner scene.
Oh, that'd be great. Okay, speaking of which, okay, well, I mean, first of all, what is this whole movie about? I mean, it starts out, Chevy Chase is like some.
he's just like random. Like I write an article where I
Investor?
tell people to invest things in what he's like a.
Financial publisher, I think, is the.
Yeah, he's got his own
Correct job
like
title.
he's got his own zine or whatever.
What was the name of that guy who would tell you what stocks to invest in, and he had a show like that guy?
It's like
I forget his name.
Oh, the Mad Money guy.
Yeah,
it's like buy,
Yeah.
sell,
yeah,
whatever.
He's like that only in the 80s.
He's kind of like that, but he's kind of a prick.
He's introduced right away as a jerk, so it's hard to relate to him. And I guess that's the thing. It's like we're clearly not supposed to like him,
No.
but it starts the movie off kind of on the wrong foot. you
Well,
know?
can we speak of starting on the wrong foot? Can we talk about the opening credits and how they completely don't represent what the movie's about? You get that glitzy and glamorous skyline, and like it's almost like a marquee type font that
Yeah,
they use
yeah.
with jazz music playing. It's very strange.
That seems like it should be for like a rom-com, like
Right.
Sleepless in Seattle or something.
And that's what like the first 20 minutes of the movie. You're kind of like, oh, this could just be a fun rom-com, a road trip rom-com. But
Yeah.
that's how it's all framed and executed.
It's very strange.
That must be intentional to trick people or something. Because it's like, hey, we've got two of our hottest stars, and it's like a meet cute, but as you said, they have negative
They have
chemistry.
negative chemistry,
Yeah.
and like I love Demi Moore. I love Chevy Chase.
And Demi Moore is doing, I think, the best she can here.
Sure.
But it's poorly written to the point where like we don't really sympathize with her either. We don't even really understand why she wants to go to Atlantic City. She just like freaks out, or is that explained and I just missed it?
I don't know. It
Joe?
was just so like
her ex-boyfriend is doing
there's
something.
going on. And she originally wants to just take his car. And
yeah.
that's where he's like, no, I'll drive you. And then you have these two Brazilian characters, which, by the way, last time I was on the show, we did Flintstones in Viva Rock Vegas.
Oh, yeah.
And one of the little Martians was Taylor.
Was that Taylor
Negron.
Negron? Oh,
Yeah.
but I love
Okay.
him. I've never seen the woman in anything, but apparently she's done a lot of television after this.
He's probably the funniest thing in this movie.
He totally
I
is.
think. Taylor Negron.
She's funny too. They're both funny.
They're both really funny, and I'm glad they kind of live because.
Oh yeah, because I wasn't sure until the very end. I was like, they're gonna meet some horrible end, and we're gonna cut to
again,
their
they-
skeletons.
They literally jump out of the movie.
Yeah, again, that's script problems, story problems, because it's like
It's like, oh, we don't know what to do with these
Yeah,
characters
there's
for
no
this.
problem.
They're out.
Have them like crash out the window and just run away, and it's just.
I
Like,
also love, again, spoilers at the very end, but John Candy's now romantically involved with
with the sister,
the
yeah,
female one. Yeah.
That's what's also funny is they're brother and sister, because like they're obviously acting like they're a couple, but they're not. There's this weird like incestual
It's
thing
this
going on.
very weird
But I will
vibe.
say that they're definitely my favorite thing about the movie.
Yeah,
and also
I-
Taylor Negron is funny. He's crops up in small things here and there, and he's always very funny.
Yeah, it's like I did get a few laughs out of them. Definitely, like I can't imagine like
It's an over-the-top performance in a movie of over-the-top performances.
Yeah, but I can't. I'm trying to remember. Did I laugh at anything in this movie?
Well, we laughed at the Jimmy Hoffa thing.
Okay, that was funny.
Yeah, we definitely did.
That was funny. But yeah, Taylor Negron is really funny.
You didn't laugh at Pud Collar?
No, I didn't. I was.
I'm laughing now.
Is that what people call it? I did actually. Okay, I laughed at Digital Underground coming into.
Oh my
movie.
god!
Oh,
Okay, just the absurdity. Okay, so basically, what did they get caught for speeding?
No, running a stop.
Sorry, yeah,
sign.
they go through Vulcanvania, which is like some rundown kind of mining town. A lot of Akroyds apparently on the porches.
Just drinking, whiskey, holding like a baby.
Sure, yeah. So
That's just where they live. He filmed their actual housing estate.
So they drive through Vulcanvania, and they're getting followed by John Candy. He's like, I'm driving a BMW. I got to speed up.
Also, before that, an early GPS in the car.
Okay, I'm very confused. So,
Did cars have this? I mean, you were alive in the 80s.
no, they didn't.
Okay, so it was an invention of the movie then.
I guess. I don't know. It seemed like something that Demi Moore had brought on. Like the way it was filmed and shot and edited. It was like, okay, we're going down this road or whatever. And it was very confusing.
I don't know. I mean, this whole... What is annoying to me is that this whole setup is confusing. Why are they all going to Atlantic City and then they all just kind of are like, we're doing this thing, and like these people don't even know each other.
Yeah.
Why the Brazilianaires are, I think, investors and they're rich, and he wants what's his name?
Chevy Chase.
I'm just trying to remember the character's name.
Chris Thorne.
Yeah.
Chris Thorne.
Chris Thorne.
Yeah.
I guess he wants to impress them. Or?
I don't know exactly.
Yeah. Well, here's what I think happened. I don't know if you read this, but this is very loosely based on something that happens to Dan Akroyd, which was he would commute. I don't know if you guys ever made the trip to New York or how long that is, but he would take, I guess after SNL, he would go back to Toronto for the weekend or whatever, and he would drive really late at night through back roads, and he got pulled over, and this township, wherever he got pulled over, their laws dictated that he would have to be brought before the local justice of the peace, who was like apparently an old lady, and she made him tea and they had a lovely chat, and he just kind of filed that away and later brought to this story. So that's I just don't think he had a clever way to how to get these characters on the road on a road trip, and it doesn't come together.
It felt very contrived, but
there was probably a way easier way to get these characters just in a car together.
It could have been any number of things.
Right. Exactly.
yeah, especially like the car chase, and then like John Candy.
Well, he's like, "Hey, aren't you a man? Just speed." And then he's like, "Okay."
I got a BMW, and then John Candy has like afterburners on his like cop car, and he like, he's sort of like leading them back to Vulcanvania and all this sort of stuff. But I have to say, like, this is one of my living nightmares as far as like types of movies.
Being stuck in an American small town where
with the crooked justice system.
with a crooked,
with Dan Akroyd going. Rah,
I mean, you're lucky that you're white. I mean, isn't this kind of like what happened at Rebel Ridge? Like,
hey,
listen, that's the ironic part. They treat the digital underground better than they do.
They do.
True, which is crazy.
Dan Akroyd and co are clearly anti-rich, anti-banker. That's
Dan
for sure.
Akroyd loves the music.
It's true. He jams with them.
But like one of the types of movies that I hate, well, it just makes my skin crawl, and like I don't, just never. I hate being in those situations where it's like, you can't get out.
You're trapped somewhere and you can't leave.
You're trapped somewhere and you can't leave. You're in like a situation. And it's like one of these horrific movies.
Wow, just like Speak No Evil.
Yeah,
except that they're too polite to leave. This, they literally can't. But it annoys me that it's this fun house and yet it's like a jail.
Yeah.
It's like a scary
But it's like
jail.
There's an Australian movie called Wake and Fright, which is terrifying.
Oh, yeah.
Terrifying to me, where it's like you can't get a ride. You're just stuck in this situation.
In this remote area.
And
Have you ever seen Welcome to Whoop Whoop?
no.
No, I've never heard of that.
That's one you have to look up. That's an Australian comedy. It was sold to me as Australian Nothing But Trouble, and that's all I'll
my
say.
God. Okay.
boy.
It's an insane comedy.
Okay.
Is it funnier than this?
It's way more inventive and clever.
Okay. Well,
Okay.
But there's no references to Pud Collars, so I don't know.
Yeah. So I just hate those situations where it's just like you're stuck somewhere and you can't get out of there, and it just it really gives me anxiety.
But again, it's not like these people did anything wrong.
No, that's even worse.
If they were like trying to get something past the judge or whatever, but they literally are just...
John Candy
the
says...
randomness of this bothers me.
Yeah. But I mean, it's like that's kind of makes it even worse. It's like John Candy says, "Oh, you failed to stop at the stop sign or something."
I know, and I get it. Like, that is the horror element.
But he's being a good guy. He's not going to tell the judge about them speeding. He just wants to bring them before him for running the stop sign.
He's even like going to bat for
regular
him.
John Candy is probably the only likable character.
I agree, except for maybe the Brazilianaires. But
And maybe the Brazilians.
But yeah, like John Candy is like, come on, can't you let these people go? You know?
Yeah, he seems very annoyed.
The two female characters are just murder hungry and just randomly shooting at people. I don't like it.
It's just very weird. John Candy, like, I don't know, he's very misused here, I think.
I agree with
like
both the characters.
I don't know.
Yeah, well, the joke just boils down to, oh, look, it's John Candy in a dress. And it's,
but it's like...
and that was something he would do, you know, it's just like, oh, big guy, and he did a lot on SCTV, as you know, but, I mean, it made sense there.
It did.
He did that great Julia Child boxing. It was like the PBS, like stuff like that. It's hilarious.
Oh, that was great.
See, now that's actually like a joke. This is like the only joke is this woman is large and therefore unattractive.
Yeah.
It's like, come on, guys, let's just add some other element to it, or that's really the only joke.
You know, she's mute and he's not even talking, so there's really nothing. Like he just seems like he's phoning it in.
There's
and
no
even,
John Candy-ness.
Even like earlier, you know, when he's playing the cop character, he's just very flat, and I don't know. It seems like it's going somewhere, and then it doesn't. And
all it goes to him
movie.
Going on a vacation.
Yeah, he kind of escapes with Taylor Negron and like, you know, his sister and stuff like that. But I don't know. It just
I also don't know.
weird.
It's never made clear. Like, but you see someone's eyes looking out from Lady John Candy painting in that classic gag of like a painting, and someone's like pulling levers behind the scenes to help Chris and Diane, her name is, escapes. I don't know if that's supposed to be Dennis, the regular John Candy character. It's never really explained.
I thought it was supposed to be the judge. Why? I don't know.
But you see,
he's one of the baby characters.
like right before the tail end of, you know, the climax, you see Dennis is like packing up his bag to leave behind Valk and Vania. So I don't.
Yeah.
It's never really explained. Akroyd did say he had to cut a lot out of this movie, so who knows what was originally intended. That footage is surely gone, but it just doesn't make much sense why, other than the judge has this antagonistic view of anyone that works in finances and bankers because they swindled his family out of their land.
It's very specific like hatred for these people, and Chevy Chase like specifically says like, I'm a banker from, you know, blah blah blah, I'm an investment banker.
Like Demi Moore though, you know,
man,
she's like trying to like flirt with him, and he's like acting like he's gonna maybe have sex with. It's disgusting. But because they're both lawyers, right? Or they law people.
No, I don't think she is. She like works for.
She's a lawyer. That's what she does, right?
Is she a lawyer? I don't think
Joe?
so.
I don't. It's something.
It's not. It's not
she actually she is.
said,
Yeah, she's a lawyer, I believe.
Okay.
Really?
That's what I got.
It seems like she's like a lowly sort of whatever, but she looks like the way they've made her up, and I was like, man, it looks like that 80s artist. It's Patrick Nagel.
I'll put a picture of his art up here for the YouTube watchers.
Yeah, if you everybody has seen like his paintings. They like, you know, it's like the kind of white skin girl with like.
She looks kind of like Gozer.
Yeah. Yeah,
like,
she's got like the haircut.
Maybe like a similar design to that character, but
just Google like Patrick Nagel and you'll see.
Isn't that Zool?
Is it Gozer?
Which one's Gozer and which one's Zool?
Wait, I think Gozer is at the end of the movie, right?
Okay, and Zool. I thought Zool was the like humanoid, and Gozer was the dog.
Maybe.
Don't ask me.
I think Zool is the dog and Gozer is the female.
Okay. Yes. Okay.
All right. But yeah, it does kind of look like that. The hairdo, you know, it's this kind of like puffy, short.
It's kind of like a black pompadour or something like that.
You know.
But it's really funny. She's like, you know, kind of dorky and like wearing glasses. And I'm like, okay, are they going to do the thing obviously they're going to do the thing where like she shows up without her like she's so beautiful, it's like insane, and she's wearing glasses. And then the next day she shows up without glasses and like,
and there's
Chevy
like
Chase is like,
a wooga moment.
Aruga, like my God, like she looks exactly the same. And
Do you think Bruce Willis had to sit through the premiere of this?
Yeah,
he's like, yeah, I'm gonna do this movie.
Had to act like it was great.
I mean, he's done his share of bad movies too. So
what are you talking about? This gave me the confidence to do Hudson.
That's true. I'm sure she had to sit through the kid. So
I want to do that Bruce Willis movie where he like loses the ability to see colors or something. What is that?
The Color of Night.
The Color of Night. Okay.
Do you really want to watch
yes,
that?
I want to
really
watch.
Boring.
I want to watch it. Okay, maybe not for the podcast.
Yeah, you can see his penis. That's all you want to see.
Well, sign me up then.
it's on his nose.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, I still want to see it.
So, by the way, yeah, okay. So,
but get to there's a
They
part
get
where they
tried.
fall through the floor into like a bunch of like squeaky toys.
Which is kind of an inventive set.
I agree. It's almost the point. But what is annoying to me is it's kind of without purpose. It's almost just like, what if we did this? Wouldn't that look cool? And it does.
Well, I
It
think that
does
was the
look
thing.
cool.
I think that was Dan Aykroyd's entire mentality filming this movie, and
Yeah.
no one
Yeah.
said no. Everyone was just like, "Yeah,
Exactly.
definitely, let's do it." You know,
It's
I
creativity
think that happened
gone off the rails.
so much. They were like, "Hey, you know, it'd be funny if we had a train car that delivered the food. Yeah, let's do it. Come on, build it, guys." Like he was just apparently very encouraging of all the crew members. If they ever had an idea, he was like, "Yeah, put it in the movie." So
but it's so entertaining, like to watch like the dinner scene or
yeah,
something. Well,
but
first
they
of all, it's
show
very
he has
disgusting.
an engineering degree, the judge. So it's
Yeah,
you know,
it's
kinda clever.
appropriate. Yeah,
Yeah.
I guess. But I guess the issue is it doesn't come together because it's all just too weird. That being said, I do like Hawaiian Punch. So if I was offered Hawaiian Punch, I wouldn't scoff at it like Chevy Chase does.
Well, he's like he's very
it's
unlikable.
it's great chilled with some Crystal Head vodka.
Hey, yeah,
there you
that's
go.
true.
Instead of
Exactly.
The
Warm.
Akroyd, as it's called.
Instead of warm and like being drank through like
I love though that
Through
it's
a
like
can?
an oil
a motor
spigot.
oil.
Oh, is that
that's
a
such a great
spout?
touch.
Yeah. I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
what is that? Yeah, I don't know cars.
One of the grossest snacks, in my opinion, is ants on a log, and the fact that he made them look even more gross in this movie.
Yeah, because they're too long.
They're
so
too
it's like
big
you
and they just
can't
look, like,
eat
wet.
them. Yeah.
So wait, ants on a log is like celery with peanut butter and raisins.
Yeah.
Okay,
and then
that's
sometimes it has
disgusting.
like grated carrot on it too.
Okay, that's really gross.
I love peanut butter and celery actually,
As a
but
kid-
I don't put the accoutrements on it.
No, I'd always just eat like celery with peanut butter. Super fibrous, by the way. Not an easy.
It's not an easy thing
Snack.
to eat, yeah. And then it is too watery. It's not great, but I mean, I think the flavors work well together.
It's kinda terrible.
But yeah, that
Let's
and
be
then the
honest.
grossest like sausages you've ever seen. They call them hot dogs.
Yeah, I think this is like the scene that everybody. This is the scene that I know this movie for because I've just seen it in like reviews and stuff. And he's got the penis nose and he's like shaking these like rubbery sausages and it looks really gross.
Which, by the way, you know, there's a scene that happens a little bit before that where Mr. Bone Stripper is introduced.
Oh God!
So
right.
I'm
Okay.
always like, are they human hot dogs? Is that what Mr. Bone
Oh,
Stripper
no.
does? Does
Okay,
it-
didn't put that together, but very well could. I'm sure that was somewhat intentional.
we forgot.
we have one of the Baldwin brothers.
Yeah, we got to
Daniel
mention Daniel
Baldwin.
Baldwin.
Again, much like Flintstones Viva Rock Vegas, there's a connection.
Oh my God! Yeah. So we were watching this. So basically, it's like I don't know, car full of like
drunk
Mamalukes,
people
like,
who
comes
are
to
drunk.
town.
They're drunk. They're on drugs, and they're doing a comical amount of alcohol and
Yeah.
and drug.
it's two couples. One is, I guess that's Daniel Baldwin.
it is Daniel Baldwin from
And then
Vampires.
there's like a Joe Pesci light.
Yeah,
and there's a girl that I thought was Fran Drescher, but is not.
no.
And I just love Dennis pulls them over because they're speeding or whatever, and the Daniel Baldwin's character pulls a gun
Yeah.
on Dennis, and he just bats it away with this giant machine gun that he was holding.
Yeah,
I
this
love
is-
how like there's this attitude in this about they're not real cops. I'll just either outrun them or shoot them. Like, I mean, is that a thing in the States that there's fake cops? I don't think so.
April. There's no John Candy cops.
That's how you get yourself shot.
In general, yes.
Yeah,
Or even worse.
pulling a gun on a cop. Yes.
Yeah, so like Daniel Baldwin, they all get pulled in front of
the judge, and
the
they're
judge.
laughing hysterically.
They're laughing
they're all
because they
on
think it's a big joke, blah blah blah.
everything.
And then, he pulls a lever, and or it's like, it's something on his organ, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, he has a bunch of like different buttons.
I
and
forgot to
levers
mention,
and-
I liked when our heroes first meet the judge and they're comically covering his face with the books.
Yeah,
I think that's really funny.
It's a great reveal.
I like it
It
when
is
that
good, yeah.
happens and it's done well in movies.
Yeah, it takes a long time, but
And
it's really
you
funny.
can almost like hear like the reaction in the theater at the time when he stands up and you see his face. You're like, ah.
The makeup on the judge, by the way, is done by David B. Miller, who also did Freddy Krueger. So
No shit.
Ooh.
No,
Yeah.
it's really good.
No
It's
complaints
very well
about
done.
that. It's repulsive, and that is the point.
But even his hands, they get the hands really well done, like
Yeah.
the fingernails.
he's got
and
those liver spots. It just looks
yeah,
great.
the liver spots, and he's like shaking every time he holds something. Like it's a very good performance, I think.
Yeah, he's committing. He commits.
But he
Akroyd.
puts them on Mr. Bone Stripper, which is another like just great inventive element of the production.
And
Yeah,
this,
it
Little
does-
roller coaster in the backyard.
Yeah, literally a roller coaster, and
it
then they go
seems-
into a thing of a bunch of metal teeth, and a bunch of bones fly out the other side.
yeah, it seems like something from like Pee-wee's Playhouse,
Yeah.
or I don't know. I'm thinking it's like Clive Barker's like what was that fucking movie we watched?
Nightbreed.
Nightbreed or something. Like, I don't know why.
A little
It's like,
wackier than that.
Crazy carnival stuff.
What
But
was
that's
this-
why I always assume that because we cut right to the hot dog scene. So I'm like, is that
yeah.
the dinner? Because they're all
I'm
gray
gonna, I'm
and like
gonna say
Yeah.
yes.
No,
Although then that if that's the case, then they would be ingesting like drugs. Because did you see that sack of cocaine? It was like a flour
yeah,
sack.
it was like it was. It was like something you'd like fertilize your lawn with or something. But
yeah.
it was like cocaine.
so hot dogs served with sliced bread. It looks like as
Not
but then
even
there's
buns.
this disgusting condiment train that comes by that he puts all the mustard and everything, and it's just disgusting. And then of course this is where we meet Eldona, who is Dennis's twin sister, also played by John Candy in drag, who is
Yes.
Mute?
mute, struck by a thunderclap. And
God.
I guess that prevents her from talking.
There is like kind of like a funny scene where she's trying to like grab the condiments, but they keep like going by
Oh, yeah.
on the train. It's a little comedy moment that John Candy
Yeah,
has.
he's trying to imbue something into this
Yeah.
movie,
Yeah.
you know. But
And he's kind of got eyes for Dennis,
Immediate.
which there's something always fun. It's like that's like Three Stooges level comedy. Where
Oh,
it's
sure,
like,
yeah.
the man dressed as a woman who's making eyes at the man, and it's they both play it off pretty well.
But there is like there's a moment, and I thought this was the whole scene. I thought Dan Aykroyd actually had a penis nose, but it turns out it's just like Chevy Chase's imagination. He's like staring. Dan Aykroyd has this like gross nose, and then for one second,
shot.
it kind of just
It's so
flashes.
quick.
Yeah, it flashes.
But
to
how
a
it's
penis
so
nose.
effective, and that's so strange too that you would think because you always just see images of it, so you would think it's
Yeah.
the whole movie, but no, it's just that
I
quick
think
little gag.
it's also like that shot has become more infamous than the movie itself.
sure.
So legend has
legend of the
has
penis
gone
nose.
on that people are saying, and then people's brains are starting to fill it
Yeah,
in. It's
exactly.
like, was it there the whole scene? Because no attention is drawn to it.
Yeah,
like he
because,
doesn't
like-
scream or go, "Hey, like what's that?"
Well, when this whole scene started, I was like, "Oh, wait,
It's
that's
just
not,
a regular nose.
that's
Although
kinda
it
just
already
like-
did kind of look like a cock.
Yeah,
but
I'm
then,
like, it's not
you know.
as penisy as I remember from like whatever. And then so they show, and so I was like, oh, maybe I just misremembered it. Or
I think he
something.
like also was like he wanted to toy with the audience a little bit. Be like,
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of like that. And as far as
well, Chevy Chase does a good like, and then
Yeah.
he does a good
little
double
double take.
take.
yeah, he does a good double take. He's good at reactions and kind of like gibberish, like
Yeah, I was gonna say like he's got some good reaction shots in this, and he's good at screaming. He's got a good yell that he does a lot.
That's
in this
about
movie.
it. I mean, him
especially when
and-
they're sliding down slides and stuff.
him and Demi, my God, it's like negative chemistry. It's-
Well, then they have like this like love scene.
Yeah, it
that
comes
it's
out of
just like
nowhere.
first of all, Demi Moore. you're in a horrible situation. What about this situation is making you like attracted to this man who you have no chemistry with? Maybe it's just like they think they're gonna die tonight, and she's like, oh, but that, I don't even get that impression from that. She's just like, for some reason, coming on to this man who is giving you nothing.
You're like, oh my god, you're the guy from that.
Did you do
TV
memoirs on the podcast? Did you do memoirs of the Invisible Man?
No, we had talked about it. I've never actually seen it all the way through.
I know you've done a lot of Carpenter, but that's another movie where it's like we're supposed to be like Chevy's painted as being like this sexy guy. That's
it's very weird. And I remember I saw that in the theater when it came out, and it was just like,
something fell off.
He in this movie? Like, I like Chevy Chase, but it's just like horribly miscast. Like, what? But apparently, like, he was the one that brought that to Carpenter.
Yeah, it was like his passion project. Yeah. So that's an interesting one, which might be interesting to revisit for this podcast. Just be like, yeah, the tone is off and it's a little strange. They clearly don't. They're not a match made in heaven. Chevy Chase and John Carpenter.
Is Chevy a match made in heaven with anyone, though? Is that?
Yeah, I don't think so.
I'm trying to think. No.
Well, maybe I mean, with whoever directed those vacation movies.
Oh,
that was like a different director every movie. No one could.
All right, Beverly D'Angelo.
And like,
although he's always trying to cheat on her in those movies.
I don't know. Yeah, that's right. Well, I don't know. Well, I loved him in The Three Amigos. How about that?
Yeah, that's a good one. John Landis got a good Chevy Chase performance.
Yeah, but I think like the other two kept him in line, like Steve Martin and Martin Short. He couldn't be too much of a dick. There was one behind the scenes story that I thought was just like the funniest, most horrific thing is when they were all, and I think it was Martin Short told this story, or somebody that worked with Martin Short. And they said that the three of them were in the makeup trailer. It was like Chevy Chase, Martin Short, and Steve Martin. And then like John Landis came in to like, I don't know, bark at them and like give them orders or whatever. And then as he was leaving, Chevy was like, yeah, okay, see you, John. Try not to kill anybody today. And
naturally,
he just said like Martin Short and Steve Martin's jaws just like fucking dropped out of their heads. Gosh. Like, oh my.
Yeah,
God.
I think it's telling he is yet to pop up on Only Murders in the Building.
I mean, he is a jerk. I mean,
they're putting everyone in that generation that they worked with in that show.
Oh yeah,
him, so.
Absolutely.
That generation and the generation before. But yeah. I mean, he obviously is. Like Community was like, yeah, he was funny at the first like couple seasons.
He's great.
But
like,
then,
he is.
And then now he's doing like Hallmark movies. And
stuff he was
like
in a movie. I think I told you, April, that my friend directed.
Yes.
I think it's called like Ghost Town.
Oh yeah, there's something with him and Akroyd.
Yeah, and Akroyd.
They're both in it.
We talked about it on some other.
I think it's called Ghost Town or Ghost.
Is it like an R.L. Stein thing?
Yeah, that's right.
Maybe
that's
okay.
Right. It came out and like nothing happened, but it was just like, my friend was. I apparently Chevy Chase was kind of, I don't know, might be suffering from some mental.
Yeah, he's kind of doing like the Chevy Chase Goodwill tour at this point in his career. Like he does a lot of those Christmas vacation movie screenings, Q&A events, and he's always like attending like, I'll light your family's Christmas lights for you. Like he does a lot of stuff like that.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. But I don't know if
I think it's a lot of goodwill he's been trying to, create around himself because there was so much negativity over the past few years.
Yeah, I think maybe he's like kind of very elderly now in the mind, like.
Well, he is elderly.
Yeah.
People do get older.
So he looks kind of like J.P. Volkenheiser. He's got the liver spots. And
penis nose.
I like how the Brazilians call it quits because he flicks a pickle at
They were like,
Fausto.
That's the last straw.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do.
Not being held captive, not the creepy hot dogs, none of this weird stuff. It's you flicked a pickle at me.
Well, they have the right idea, and I kind of love how they just like jump out.
They jump
out
a window, which is really funny.
And they actually get away. And I remember at like some point, April in the movie, you're like, did they get away clean, didn't they? They didn't get like sucking the bone stripper.
Because you're not sure for a while.
Yeah.
And then until the very end,
you're fearing for the worst.
Yeah.
I feel like there might have been something there that showed their journey. I don't know, because like you said, it just feels so rushed when they just pop up at the last scene like, oh, right, them.
Yeah, and like John Candy just sort of decides to go away with them. It seems like maybe this was like a 3.5 hour movie that they just cut down.
Like
give me it. I want to see it.
It does.
I want
feel
the whole thing.
like it's an hour and a half. It does feel like
I've got all
things
the rough
are
cuts.
things are
Here
cut
at
out.
home.
Yeah, there's just too much story.
35 mil.
Okay, so let's talk about the dumpster babies.
Oh my god.
They're not allowed in the house.
Oh my god.
What was he thinking? That's what I'm. That's what I want to say. It's a movie of disgusting looking creatures, and then this is the most disgusting of all. What if you had a full grown baby?
What are
like
they?
it's like you took a baby in Photoshop and scaled it up in perspective, because it's the scale is all off. Like the heads are real big, and they got like flabby stomachs, and it's just gross.
They don't look like humans.
It's like you took a human and like a sea monkey and like mixed them together and made them like kind of human size or something.
Bobo is Dan Akroyd, and Little Devil is John Davicus, who again is the design that Ghostbusters logo. So
we were thinking, okay, so we're like, we know like one of them is
Dan Akroyd.
And we're like, who is in the credits? Remember, it was like Bill Murray's brother.
Oh, Brian Bill Murray.
Yeah, maybe he was the other one.
Like, is he the other one?
That would have been welcomed.
Yeah,
I think so.
Instead, he shows up for one scene.
It's just very strange. It's like
not a couple scenes. Yeah,
I mean, that's where Diane ends up. I guess her and Chris end up escaping. That's where they get up in the attic, where they discover that the judge has all those ID cards of people who have went missing over the years, including Jimmy Hoffa. And from there they escape, and she ends up in this junkyard with Bobo and Little Devil, and he ends up behind the walls of the judge's bedroom.
Right.
Where another great makeup thing where he's like peeling his nose off and his wig.
Ew,
and,
yeah,
I will
gross.
say, effective. Because I'm like, oh, it's a fake nose. What?
Yeah, it's really
just
disgusting.
he's just taking his nose off. He has a skull nose.
But then it was kind of they explain it like a few scenes later, like what happened to him or something. Like
was there like an accident or something?
Did he get burned or something?
Yeah, it said there was like a fire happened or something, an explosion.
Right. Okay. Yeah, but oh god, this is so disgusting. Yeah, it's
and then
really
there's like
gross.
a bedpan that him and Chris start fighting with and over, and he steps in it.
Chevy Chase, he sticks his like foot in it, and it's just like full of like piss and what do you?
Aykroyd just wanted to make this scene as grotesque as possible.
Yeah, it's just disgusting.
The other thing I don't like about this movie is that it's just constant noise, mostly, and it's hard to, it's hard not to just like disassociate while it's happening.
I didn't find it like too like I'm shocked with myself that I'm saying this, but I'm like,
well, it wasn't boring. I'll give it that.
I didn't find it too obnoxious or disgusting. Like
I found it pretty obnoxious.
Oh, okay, this is sort of okay.
I wasn't really disgusted, but I was annoyed.
But I was.
I do like so much of the. You have the slides behind the walls. You have like that one wall that like tries to crush them, and the one room that's all like bat droppings. Like there is so much inventive stuff happening. It just stinks that it doesn't come together very well.
Yeah.
It feels
because
very
it's
like,
so inventive.
Yeah, it feels very like scattershot.
But it's
like
almost too much. Like there's so much I can't process it. It's like looking at a piece of art where you don't know where to look. You don't know where your attention is supposed to go. So
you can kind of like it feels like someone who's like, I'm only gonna get one shot.
I can put everything.
I'm going to put everything I like into like one script and one
you're right.
directorial debut or whatever, and then it just sort of like it feels very kind of like just too much and too random, and it doesn't coalesce into anything.
It's also got to stink when like your one big movie that you directed and wrote and starred in multiple roles, like not only does it tank and get panned critically, but it becomes one of those notorious like this movie is one of the worst movies ever made movies. Like that has to sting when you're putting yourself into it so much.
But I'll 100% disagree with that. Like I did not
that it should be like panned as the worst movie ever?
Like I did not hate this movie. I don't even know if I disliked it. Like and man, have I seen way
Yeah,
worse
and
movies.
I don't know if Dan Aykroyd has talked about this, somewhat recently,
No.
but
He has.
I think he should be proud of this.
I don't know.
I think he is. He
Yeah.
put out Shout Factory put this on Blu-ray, and it's
Right.
great.
Oh,
and
no
they
kidding.
interview him for it, and
Okay.
he talks about it very fondly. They have Chevy's interviewed a little bit. I mean, everyone just seems to at this point they're like, yeah, no, I mean, it didn't work, but it was fun. We had fun. We wanted to make something different, and he blames its failure on the fact that it opened against Silence of the Lambs.
Oh.
and
Well,
that just was
didn't help.
Well,
yeah.
It certainly did not help.
yeah. All the people are going to see like a horror comedy.
But I will say this: Silence of the Lambs does not have Tupac in it, so
Oh my
No.
God. Okay, we have
Let's
not
talk
talked
about Digital.
Digital
So
Underground.
Digital Underground are the third group of people who are, I guess, arrested during. Is this just the course of one night?
This is insane.
And
and
they
it's
just
not them
show-
playing. It's literally Digital Underground. They're playing themselves.
Yeah.
It's not they're playing other music. Like no, Digital Underground gets stopped,
It's
brought before the judge.
We have like Tupac Shakur in this
It's
movie.
great because it's it reminds me of a time when musical artists would do this in movies.
Yeah. But there's nothing that dates a movie more than having
Oh, yeah.
breaking for a music video.
Oh sure.
And so Digital Underground
They do
that
a
with
song.
the Humpty Dance. Is that what it's called?
I don't think they do the Humpty Dance.
Okay.
It's the same song.
Yeah.
Is the name of the song. And by the way, Dan Aykroyd returns the favor by appearing in the music video
Yeah.
for
No
the same
kidding.
song.
As
and
himself
it's
or the
hilarious.
judge?
As himself, and it's the whole. It's same song, so it's all around the world. So it's Dan Aykroyd with a turban on, and then
Oh no.
yeah, it's very. He jumps around in different ethnicities and costumes,
no!
and
That's amazing.
God, that's hilarious.
It's great. But he gets into the organ and he's doing an
the
organ
girls
solo.
are all hanging on him, and he's just doing his little solo, which I think that's probably Dan Aykroyd actually playing.
It might be. He's fucking amazing.
But it just is such a weird.
It's-
I mean, Tupac's first movie.
Yeah.
And
it's so weird.
Did he?
but-
He did a couple of movies before
yeah.
his death, right?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, a few.
Poetic Justice.
Yeah.
With Janet Jackson.
I don't know.
Yeah, but this was his first. I
Yeah.
mean, this is his first.
I mean, he
appearance
looks
in
like
the
a
film, so
baby in this.
Yeah,
and
he
he's
looks
like,
very young.
he's singing same song. It's just what is happening right now? It's great.
Yeah, it does feel very dated, but in a a quaint kind of.
It feels like you're watching a house party movie or something.
Yeah.
Where it's hey, it's this person.
Which I love the house party movies.
They're great.
Actually, I've only seen the first one, but I gotta rectify that.
They also perform a second song on the soundtrack, which is "Tie the Knot," which
Yes.
is a riff on the classic wedding march, and I love that song. I think
because-
it's great.
Yeah. So they kind of force Chevy Chase and mute John Candy to get married.
Yeah.
Well, when Eldona touches you, apparently that means
Yeah.
she's claimed you as her own. So there's kind of that funny scene where she's behind one of
Yeah,
those
she's getting-
room dividers and
Lingerie.
shaking the underwear, and
Lingerie.
Big Girls is playing on the record
Yeah,
player.
and then Chevy Chase is shaking his head, no.
Yeah.
She's putting her underwear, which is gigantic
Yeah.
panty pants down and stuff like that.
I know. I will say though, she cleans up pretty good. That wedding dress looks nice.
Yeah,
She's
it's
got
pretty
all
good.
this makeup and hair done.
And this is where, to get out of marrying Eldona, Chris is like, I don't know, Judge, if I'll ever be able to satisfy her. And that's when the judge goes, I'll just slip on a pud collar. And leave it at that. That's nothing's followed up on it, just that little line. And yeah, of course, he ends up trying to escape during the wedding and upsets Eldona, breaks her heart. So
But he does-
now he's
he-
back on
he-
the judge's bad side.
He does say I do. So he
Well, yeah.
yeah. And I mean, this is also I don't know. It's a very dated joke. I'm going to trap you into marriage with an ugly
Sure.
woman.
It's like
this
something
is
from-
something from the fucking 40s.
No, it's something from a Looney Tunes cartoon
yeah,
or something.
yes,
you see
yes.
Bugs Bunny.
Well, I
and,
mean,
It
speaking
is. I mean,
of
and
Looney
this-
Tunes, we'll see that at the end.
Yeah, and this was Warner Brothers, so it's
Okay.
it's part of that. And I think he was definitely going, it's that classic cartoony thing. And yeah, I agree with you guys were saying where the tone is just all over the place. You have that glitzy, glamorous opening credits into the more rom-com beginning, into the comedy, and then it's a horror. There's so much he's trying to do here.
Yeah.
And it doesn't ultimately come together, but I think it's still a fun ride.
Oh, absolutely.
It's a hell of a toboggan
I was kind
ride.
of shocked, how much I didn't hate it. And, I know I was telling you, Joe, when I was messaging, we should do this, and you were sending me, screen grabs of, Dan Aykroyd with the penis nose, and I was like, oh God, what have I done? And I wasn't repulsed.
It wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be.
I
still didn't really enjoy
enjoyed it a lot better than I thought I would.
Well, the end in the junkyard is kind of like scary. Like they're going to drop like a huge blade on Demi Moore.
Yeah.
And like she made friends with the babies, but they don't save her. They just have to do what they're told. They're all just like under the thumb of this crazy millionaire, not millionaire, but this crazy judge who just he takes the law into his own hands and is deciding to just murder everyone for fun. Mm-hmm. And again, what did Demi Moore do? Nothing.
Yeah, she just
I feel bad, and she's like screaming, but of course she gets saved at the last second.
She doesn't have any agency in this movie, and she's like
not really,
very like uninterested. And like her and Chevy Chase, my God, just.
Yeah, I guess if it was more like they were being clever about figuring out ways to escape or like, play with the power dynamics, because the Brazilians are actually doing that a little bit with John Candy. They're like, hey, don't you want a vacation?
They had agency. Yeah. They escaped. They took John Candy.
The good characters left the movie.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I want to follow them. Come
on. But anyway, Chevy lights an oil barrel on fire. Big explosion.
Well, this whole like town is like, giving off gas. It's like a kind of mining town, whatever. And there's like a big kind of, I don't know, what is it, like an earthquake or something happens just when they're...
Yeah, all that coal fire starts to take over. But they escape, and it's very Texas Chainsaw Massacre-like ending with her they get on the train.
Yeah, this whole movie kind of feels like that, but yeah, and you kind of like...
oddly sober...
When they escape. And then when you see the house and they look back at it, it's kind of like the Poltergeist house, like it kind of just like...
Oh, yeah.
Well, that hadn't happened yet, right? Because don't they go to the cops and then they bring the cops in?
Yeah. But then they
go to Brian Doyle Murray.
Yeah.
And
all the cops love the judge.
It's like a SWAT team comes in, and they convince them that they have to come back with the cops to help catch the judge, I guess. And they
saved.
knock on the door, and the judge comes out, and they're like, "Yeah, we got you." And it's kind of a fun reveal where the whole police force is in on it. They all, "Hi, judge."
Felt like a creep show ending.
And again, it's
something.
like, this is like my nightmare where it's like, I've seen horror movies
everyone's
where it's
in
like,
on it.
Whatever, we'll go back, and you're like, yeah, they're going to take them down. And then it's just like, oh God, we're back. Yeah. But yeah, the whole like house, like getting kind of sucked down feels like Poltergeist.
That did
and
look
stuff.
cool.
It looks really cool. There's so many good like practical gags and like,
I do love how the female cop played by Valerie Bromfield, she just is in the outhouse and collapses into the earth.
she just goes straight down.
Yeah, but there's like...
Who, by the way, she was a great character actor. She's kind of retired, but she was like Dan Aykroyd's early comedy acting partner at Second City.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I thought she had some
like
kind of SCTV
as soon as
connection.
I saw her, I'm like...
Yeah, I think I've seen her and stuff too.
Yeah, you looked around.
Yeah, she's another Canadian, so...
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I think she wrote on SCTV, and I looked her up.
You've seen her and stuff. She's in so many of these movies from around this time, but... Yeah, she just sinks into the earth.
But it's really good. She goes like so far down. It's great. It's like this big kind of like square cutout.
And then it's like it jumps a little bit into the future, or maybe it's the next day, and Dan Aykroyd is on television getting interviewed.
Like Chevy Chase is...
I'm alive!
Well, first of all, it cuts to like Taylor Negron and them and like...
we get to see them in...
Are they actually in Brazil?
It might be like
is the Christ Redeemer in the background?
I think so, yeah.
And then John Candy and her like in a relationship, blah, blah, blah.
That makes me happy that John Candy got to do like probably a day's shoot in Brazil.
Oh, yeah.
At a really nice house with a swimming pool.
I would love to hang out with John Candy.
It was a cute moment where he puts his arm around the girl and then she takes his arm and puts it on her butt. It's funny. It's a joke.
But I'm also wondering, like, what did the Brazilians think? Like, what did they think happened to Chris and Diane? They're just like, we don't care.
They
don't care?
Yeah, they're fine.
All I'm thinking is I'm picturing this like splinter offshoot of the main film crew. They're all hanging out in Brazil with John Candy and Taylor Negron.
Yeah,
that would have been the best
character.
Time of their lives.
Man, what a party!
Aykroyd's like, this should have been the movie.
It's like,
damn it.
Yeah, that could have been the whole
What are you guys doing in Brazil? It's like
nothing. Get back to your junkyard set.
Go to your Vulcanvania stuff.
Yeah. So
you don't have to dress as the judge anymore, Dan. Those scenes are over.
What are you doing?
Just try to get into character.
Yeah, and then we cut back to like it's like Chevy Chase has made it back to New York, and it's like his car was it New York? Yeah, his car is cut in half, blah blah blah, and he's watching on TV, and then
Yeah, news reporter talking about what happened, and then she's like, "Oh, and here we have a resident who's picking through the rubble," and it's the judge with the penis nose on again.
And he's like, "I'm gonna show up at your house," and he
Didn't
has
he
like
say
Chevy
something
Chase's.
to do with the fact that he married?
Yeah, he's like
girl.
my son-in-law, and he
Yeah.
has like Chevy Chase's like he shows on TV, and he's like, "Ah," and then that's it. It's
And
like,
then
okay.
he jumps through the wall.
Oh God, like a
And I props to them for creating this, because
Yes.
I don't know if I've ever actually seen something like this in live action. A cartoon shape of him,
Of a person.
of a person.
Isn't it in Roger Rabbit? I think they utilize
sure,
it.
Yeah,
they
you're
do.
right. You're right.
I'm sure. I'm
Okay.
sure I've seen it in like a
But it's
Jackie
still-
Chan movie or something.
It is so awesome to see. And I think they even use like that Looney Tunes sound effect. Like the "that's all folks"
Yeah, the
kind of ending. But
yeah.
it's like, I just don't think they had any idea how to end the movies. They were just
No.
like,
Yeah,
here.
it's just whatever. Yeah.
At this point, what do you expect? How do you expect this to wrap up? And
Yeah.
I kind of like the ending. I think it complements this bizarre, all over the place tone of this movie.
yeah, it's funny.
Yeah, I think in retrospect, I kind of I do respect this movie more than I necessarily enjoyed watching it. But yeah, like at least there's just a lot of interesting things to look at. Like I said, I didn't
There
really
is.
enjoy myself because I was frustrated. But most of the problems are story and plot and character related.
And probably Chevy Chase
This
and, like-
could work.
Yeah.
But again, the story needed to be, I don't know, it needed like
Just-
5 or 10 revisions.
Just something like
you
have the
know?
main characters like driving the story, and
They
I
need
feel
punch
like
ups, right?
yeah, if there was like
You know your movie's in trouble when it could benefit from John Landis's involvement.
Exactly. Yeah. It needs, and again, it needs. It's Carrie Fisher needs to come in here and punch
oh
up,
yeah,
add in some jokes.
totally.
And we need to keep the Brazilian characters in the whole thing and have them, and also like not, probably recast Chevy Chase. You can keep Demi Moore, but write her character to be more interesting.
I think she'd be good. Yeah, with somebody
The
else.
judge couldn't work if it was just like you
Yeah.
know. Playing off and
But
keep,
just
keep
have-
Digital Underground in there.
just have two main characters that like
that are
drive
yeah.
drive the story and aren't kind of just sitting there doing nothing. Like,
Yeah.
you know.
They're just reacting,
Exactly,
kind of.
But
Yeah, it
I
was
don't know.
well intentioned. I think.
I think
if
so,
You,
yeah.
If you know anything about Akroyd and those scripts he wrote for Blues
God.
Brothers and Ghostbusters, like they did require heavy revisions and heavy involvement from other creatives. So I think there's something good hidden in here. He just completely runs away with it, and I think that's what happened. I think it probably, if you would have seen that longer cut, things would have worked better. But then, of course, they had to cut this down, and
sure.
Yeah.
you lost whatever I think he was going for as a result. But what's left is, it's not the worst.
No,
It's
I
not the
think
worst.
Yeah, I'm shocked at how much I didn't hate it.
And like it's a good candidate for this podcast because it is like has a reputation of being one of the worst movies ever made.
Yeah, I kind of
Well, or
disagree.
maybe not ever made, but it's got a bad reputation.
I disagree.
And
but-
while it is off-putting, I actually would recommend this movie
Yeah.
because
just don't eat
even
like
just-
sausage and peppers while you're
no.
like watching it.
even just as an interesting like failure, even just watching
Yeah.
for all the things that don't work, but as we all said, like the ingenuity in the art direction and the set design
Yeah.
is worth seeing alone. You
Good
know,
creativity and like production design is really good. So
Yeah, William Sandell, great production designer, cinematography, all that stuff. Akroyd surrounds himself with the best people, both behind and in front
Dean
of the camera.
Cundy.
Yeah.
yeah. And like if you were like the art director or you worked on the set, like hell yeah, this is gonna be on your reel. Like
Yeah, of course.
of course. You know,
I'm sending you both a screenshot from the music video, same song of Akroyd.
Okay, we gotta
I'm
watch
pulling
this.
it up right now. Oh my God, he's wearing a turban. Okay.
No.
If I don't get copyright claimed, maybe I'll put a clip from the actual music video into our YouTube video right here.
You look so happy.
Yeah, I miss the days of like music videos being in movies, and then
Oh my
the music
God.
video, the separate one with the characters from the movie.
Yeah,
in it,
exactly.
yeah.
Like the last one I saw, I never saw the movie, but it was from I think Suicide Squad
Oy.
with what's his name is Joker.
Oh, Jared
Leto.
Jared
was
Leto.
Joker.
Leto?
And he was in some like rap video, but he was like, the Joker, and it was just so embarrassing.
Yeah.
Like you know, and you just had secondhand embarrassment.
I mean, I don't know if Tom Hardy was in like the Eminem Venom
I
music
don't
video.
think so.
Probably not. They probably
No.
just show clips
He's
of the
like, I'm
movie.
playing with my dogs. I'm not going to show.
Although
the
Venom's in it.
Oh sure, yeah, of course.
Well, that's nothing but trouble. This movie in Canada, you got to rent it off iTunes.
It's fine. It's
or
$4.99.
YouTube. It is only available in French on Crave.
Or
I
you could
fucking
drive
hate
to
Crave.
New York in the middle of the night and experience your own nothing but trouble
Vulcanvania.
situation.
in
Yeah,
upstate
exactly.
New York.
What was it like? Old Coke Road that they?
Old
Yeah.
Coke Road, yeah.
Yeah,
Something like that.
I was very confused. Was the thing leading them down Old Coke Road? Because the other road went to Vulcanvania.
No, it's because the whole production, they were on cocaine. So it was a nod to that.
Landis Way.
They all went down the old Coke Road.
Well, if you want to email the podcast, we're at nosuchthingasabadmovie@gmail.com, and we're on Twitter and Instagram at nosuchthingpod, and we're also on YouTube. So if you want to see any of the visual references we often talk about on the podcast, just look us up on YouTube. And I put chapter markers in, and including the great picture of Dan Akroyd from the music video is going to be on here. And we're on patreon.com/nosuchthingасabadmovie, and if you subscribe at the $5 level, you get a little bonus episode every 2 weeks, so you have access to over 100 of these episodes. And next week we're talking about the new Ghostbusters movie, although it's been out for a little while now.
I know.
But it is
wanna continue-
starring Jan Aykroyd.
We wanted to continue the Akroyd, and we're with Joe Ramoni again.
Exactly. So tune into that. And if you want to find me, I'm on Twitter and Instagram and Bluesky at April at Mansky.
What about you, Joe?
It's at Joe Ramoni on socials, and I'm also Hats Off Entertainment on YouTube and Almost Cult Classics, the podcast.
Check out the YouTube channel. It's
Yeah, great YouTube
It's so
channel.
good. And I'm Sergeant Zima, SGTZIMA, on Twitter. Maybe Instagram as well.
Maybe Instagram, maybe Letterboxd. Who knows?
Who knows?
But yeah, thank you for joining us,
That was
Joe.
great,
Thank you
Joel.
so much for
very
having me.
much.
It was so much fun.
Yeah, that's really
And
good.
congrats to Justin.
Yes, exactly.
I remember when you first posted about this movie, and then I said we should do this, and then you emailed us or messaged me, and you're like, "Look, I'm due for my yearly watch of Nothing But Trouble. Are you guys gonna have me on, or can I watch this, or should I hold off?"
I was really sitting there anxiously, like I need to watch it.
Well, anyway, I had a great time, and I'm glad I gave it the chance.
Yeah,
that
for sure.
It actually
Hey.
did
Yeah.
deserve.
It's much better than I thought it was gonna be.
And that's it for this week. Thank you for joining us. I'm April at Mansky.
I'm Colin Cunningham.
I'm Joe Ramoni. Thanks again for having me.
And remember, there's no such thing as a bad movie.